My name is Jon Wedger. I'm a retired Metropolitan Police detective. I was a specialist in vice and child abuse investigations, and I became a whistleblower. I sort of got quite a bit of prominence for my role as a whistleblower because I was investigating cases of child prostitution, and I exposed the sheer extent of the problem within the London area, which soon spread to the surrounding areas. And I was bullied and threatened by a senior officer who now is one of the UK's most senior officers for my efforts in exposing this vile crime.
Now, John, you say retired. It sounds to me as if that wasn't necessarily voluntary.
Well, no. I mean, I had a very promising career. I enjoyed my job. Like most police officers, detectives, you get engrossed in it. It becomes a way of life. The campaign of bullying was so intense and so vile that I was forced really into early retirement. There was numerous attempts to have me prosecuted for spurious offences that they conjured up. I mean, I wasn't alone. There's accounts of many whistleblowers, not just police officers, who expose, equally disturbing crimes and sometimes more serious. And the pattern of bullying is identical. So in 2014, after a 4-year battle, really, with the Met Police and a battle with ill health and everything else, I managed to secure my my pension and my retirement. And no, it wasn't something I didn't expect my career to end that way. But in many ways, I left with my integrity fully intact.
Okay, so you're you say there that there's a pattern. Other police whistleblowers getting the same sort of treatment. Can you tell us first of all what happened to you, and then maybe other police officers who've had a similar kind of experience?
Well, yeah. I mean, I spoke out about the cover-ups, and I was threatened firstly with the loss of my home, my job and my children. Now, I was a single parent and I've been since 2000 of 4 children. They're grown up now. So this officer, who was the commanding officer for the unit at the time, was so confident that he could make a claim that he could have my children removed. So God knows what gave him the authority to do so and the confidence to speak out.
And what had you been investigating that led him to decide that he didn't really want you around?
Well, I just exposed the sheer extent of it, and I exposed, who was involved. And it was a massive strata of people, throughout society that were involved. So it went from drug dealers, street drug dealers, right the way up to judges, senior police officers, wealthy people, a lot of wealthy people. Were paying for the services of very young and very vulnerable and very damaged and disturbed children.
And so, John, how did they get away with it?
Well, they did get away with it, and they still do to this day. And the strange thing with this, Tony, is that I was one of a small team that was dedicated to dealing with this problem. Now, it was, and I mean huge, is an understatement. And when
Sorry, can you just give us an idea of the extent then that you found?
Yeah, initially one little girl came forward, and she'd actually made allegations in the past, and she'd been told to go away. They didn't believe her, and I took her seriously, and she was proved to be right. But she gave me the name of another girl, who then gave me the name of another girl, who then gave me another girl. So there was boys as well, but it was increasing on a daily basis. And one example is that I was told in the London Borough of Haringey that there was not a problem with child prostitution. I picked up a phone, armed with a list of children's homes. I went through systematically, ringing up each care home, which was about 26 of them, and within 5 minutes I'd found 3 children that were being pimped out. By the end of 3 days I'd found 50 children.
And was that just literally on the phone rather than knocking on doors?
No, well, the 3 were on the phone. The others I actually attended to homes in person as well. So it was a mixture of both. Now there's 32 boroughs, I think, 32 boroughs in London. There might be 26, I'm not too sure anyway. But we're in, there's at least 24 boroughs. So if we take Haringey as the norm, 50 in 3 days, well then, we multiply that by the amount of boroughs there are. We're talking a huge problem.
Okay, let's just look at two sides of the problem. First of all, the children. Were they mostly from children's homes? Because,
Yes.
maybe they've been taken into care for whatever reason, and then suddenly they're being turned into child prostitutes. So that's not really caring.
Well, of course it's not. And the word, care for the care system, it's an oxymoron. It really is a ridiculous thing because they get anything but care.
And who were the clients?
Well, they range. Like I said, it ranged from one girl said she could be taken to a crack house. Now, I'll explain that term. That will be an address, usually in a shitey part of town, where drugs are dealt. So the girl, and it will be just frequented by drug addicts, really, shoplifters, prostitutes, street prostitutes, people on heroin and crack cocaine. And there'd be some dangerous people in these places, and sometimes armed people. So the girl could one day be taken there and she would be exchanged for rocks of crack cocaine. So she said she could be traded for 20 rocks that would be given to her pimp, who happened to be a woman, dispelling a myth that it's just men, because it's not. And then later on in the evening, she was taken to a very upmarket Arab Mayfair restaurant, out of hours, in the Mayfair region of central London, one of the most affluent parts of Europe, where she was traded for £2,000. So it was across the board.
So with you, getting back to your story, John, what's your situation now? You're on your pension and you're a whistleblower, but the thing is, everything is moving in the opposite direction. VI paedophiles apparently don't exist, and we've got the former Conservative MP and convicted sex offender, Harvey Proctor, saying that the police themselves actually could be prosecuted and should be.
Well, this is just an algorithm that they roll out in times of crisis. So they, if they can't attack the information, they attack the source of the information. There's a very prominent barrister who made his reputation by using this algorithm. That was Michael Mansfield. If he couldn't attack the information, he'd attack the source. And this is exactly what they're doing. Now, I have stated this very, very clearly, Tony, in a number of my talks. In 2003, the Criminal Justice Act rolled out a bit of legislation in respect to bad character. Right, and it was seen as a real step forward in criminal justice, that someone, for instance, was up for burglary and they wasn't allowed to adduce the fact that they'd committed numerous burglaries during the trial. It was only post-trial, upon conviction or on mitigation or on release, that their previous convictions would be mentioned. So they brought this legislation saying that they can bring it in during a trial, and everyone said, well done. But I saw this as a very, very sinister bit of legislation, and it's exactly what's happened. A lot of people that have been abused fall foul of the law. Now, people self-medicate for many reasons, and abuse is one of them reasons. And the medication they tend to use is heroin. Now, heroin, is a Class A drug, very powerful drug, and it is a very powerful analgesic. It's a painkiller. Now, in order to fund that expensive drug habit, people tend to, once their savings are gone, if they had any to start with, they will turn to crime. One of the most obvious forms of crime is shoplifting. And 9 times out of 10, they'll get away with it, but every now and then they'll get caught. So they'll get caught, and then they'll get conviction, and that conviction will be for theft. Theft is classed as a dishonest crime. So they then get labelled as a person of dishonesty. Right? So with that tag, they are then classed as dishonest. Now, if someone is given evidence in court, years later, this said heroin addict decides that they want to speak out about the abuse that they endured as a child, and they want to name their perpetrators. They make an allegation, a very, very serious allegation, and then they go to court, and then they are classed before it really, even the trial begins, as a person of dishonesty. Now, if you say someone's dishonest, what word conjures up straight in your mind? It's not thief, shoplifter, it's liar. Liar. You see, and this is exactly what has happened in the recent trial of Karl Beech. And I've been saying this all the way through. We are going to see the sources of information brutally attacked.
Now, he's had a sentence of 18 years, which, I mean, many people have said is a bit excessive, but he has been shown to, apparently, according to the jury, and this is, not the judge saying this, the jury has decided he's guilty, John.
Say that again, sorry, Tony.
The jury has decided he's guilty, John, not the judge, the jury.
Well, of course, I mean that is our judicial system. Now, not everyone who is found guilty is guilty, and we've seen many cases of travesties of justice. If that was a case, we wouldn't have the appeal courts, which we have, and they're constantly busy. But also, those that get not guilty, that doesn't mean that they haven't done it. It's just that the very high benchmark of the burden of proof in the UK, which is the highest in the Western world, hasn't been attained. So, it's just one of them things, and maybe he did it. But the sentence is very much over the top, and this bloke was a victim. Now, what went against him is the fact that he has a very, very dubious criminal past, which involves sexual offences and those against children. So the man could be well classed as a paedophile, and I no doubt he was on the sex offenders register. I haven't looked too deeply into it. Okay, that's not good. That aside, he was a victim, and I spoke to a former colleague who knows one of the senior investigating officers on his case, and said that they all believed him. Now, what we've seen happen is that his criminal past was brought in during the trial. Therefore, that left the game open for his defence team to attack the prosecution.
Well, yeah, but the police may have believed him, John, but the jury didn't. It seems.
Well, of course. Well, it didn't. Didn't, and that's that. I mean, that's just how it goes. I mean, like I said, he got found guilty because he may well have been guilty.
Okay, what do you make of the chief commissioner? Is it of the Met, the top person?
Cressida Dick.
Yeah. What do you make of her? Do you have any faith that she will make a difference?
No. Of course she will not. And I'm in court with her next year, so I'm not going to say too much. I'm suing her, her and her force, for the cover-ups of child prostitution. And I said to her in a meeting, and I said, it was meant to be just me and her. When I turned up this meeting, that she was there with 9 other officers, all women, all sat round a table, whether that was for intimidation or to back herself up or what, I don't know. Anyway, I had something to say, and I said it. And I said to her, I can go to a children's home, I can find a vulnerable girl, I can have sex with that girl, groom that girl, get my friend to do the same. We can then get that girl and we can pimp her out, for want of a better term, make money out of it and get her to get her friend involved so we can do the same to them. And you, Cressida, have not employed one officer. And bear in mind, when I exposed this, they shut down the inquiry, right, and they never investigated another case. And when I exposed this was in 2006. So I had this meeting with Cressida. I think this was circa 2014, maybe 2013, I'm not too sure. For nearly 7-year period, that she did not employ one person to deal with this most heinous of crimes, right? And I said to her, but if I leant over my fence and I called my next door neighbour, and I said a racial word, derogatory word, not that that's my intention or my cognitive process, but to prove a point, you would have me arrested, you would have a specialist team dealing with it, you'd have me on a register, you'd probably have me evicted, and you'd have me in court by the end of the play of that day. How is that just? So she and her predecessor, Bernard Hogan Howe, he did nothing and he did nothing, and I'm very stern on this. And Cressida Dick, she can say what she wants, she can be as professional as she wants, but do you really think she's going to go onto LBC radio And she's going to say, oh, yeah, I don't really care about children. It's up to them. No, she's not. She's always going to be professional. She's a liar. She's let the public down. She's a deceiver, and she should not be in that job. And the public should demand she is outed.
What about the close connection with the royal family? This is one of the things that's come out with the Bishop of Gloucester, Peter Ball, and also a chap called Jimmy Savile, most people have heard of, all very close to the royal family, particularly to Prince Charles. Now, when it comes to prosecutions, we've got something called the Crown Prosecution Service that actually does those prosecutions, and actually when you're in a court, it's a Crown court, for example. So this is one of the things that makes me a little bit concerned, that if this child sexual abuse is in any way connected with the royals and with the Crown, that it is not going to prosecute itself, John.
Well, the thing is, right, when you're in court, in our courts, it's Regina versus whoever. Okay, so Regina is Elizabeth, right? She's the only one with infallibility. Charles isn't. Charles was asked to make a statement regarding what went on with his links with Peter Ball. He refused to do so. No inference was drawn on that. There was no outrage and very little press coverage. We've seen it more recently.
Well, actually, Prince Charles was writing character references for Peter Ball, wasn't he?
Oh, well, of course he was, yeah, and he was visiting him. And we've seen recently with Prince Andrew. I mean, Andrew, this isn't the first time that he's cropped up. I mean, you go back to the times when he was with Koo Stark. She was young then, and he had involvement with her. And they called him Randy Andy. But, he's been proved, okay, not to a court standard, but there's good allegations, there's good evidence to have him arrested for sexual relations with underage girls. Now, part of our law is that if a person commits an offence abroad, which would be an offence in the UK, they can be arrested and interviewed and possibly charged for it.
Well,
So
I wonder if that's going to happen to Andrew. I mean, because anyway, I mean, if you look at that case with Jeffrey Epstein, this very suspicious death of Epstein in the US, actually, the actual person, people behind that criminal operation were Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and yet, as a quite obvious and proven child sex trafficker, Maxwell hasn't been arrested, has she? She's survived all this, and it looks like she's got off scot-free. John, how does something like that happen?
But we constantly see it. I mean, I ask people to go back. Some things just slip through, and no one takes much interest. But there was a chief constable for Great Manchester Police called Michael Todd. He was looking into the way sex crimes were investigated, crimes against children were investigated within GMP, and that was historic, right? Now, we saw what went on with GMP, the cover-ups around Rochdale, and we constantly see, there's quite a few whistleblowing coppers that have come from GMP, and he died a very suspicious death. He was apparently fell off a mountain whilst drunk on vodka. Well, I spoke to an ex-colleague of his, said he wasn't a vodka drinker, and he was a fit man. He had a bit of a complex personal life, but nothing that would have pushed him to suicide, and he was near to retirement, so he had no reason to do it. At the same time, Robin Cook died a very, very similar way out in Hong Kong, fell off a mountain whilst off his head.
No. Robin Cook, he died up in Scotland on a mountain.
Oh, Scotland, okay then. All right, but he was a foreign minister at the time. But his death was almost identical to that of Michael Todd's. So, because not a lot of people will know who Michael Todd is, but I said research it because certain things stick in my mind. And that was one thing that rang a lot of alarm bells with me at the time. So we see this thing rolling out time and time again. And I was contacted by an ex-member of MI6 a few months ago, and basically told, how things pan out if you become a bit of a problem. Now, I'm not accusing MI6 of going out there and being a murder squad, but what she did verify is that, things do happen, and if people don't listen, take the writing on the wall, then there's a course of events that take place.
I mean, these guys have got a licence to kill, haven't they?
Well, who knows? I mean, who knows? I mean, I can only go on the very, very small, dealings I've had with them. But I mean, she was very, very well-meaning and a very nice person. But I had to take her words of advice incredibly seriously. So, as far as I'm aware, if anything that you get up to causes financial or political instability, you will then be a target for the military intelligence units. So
interesting when you say financial as well, isn't it? Because that's, we don't necessarily think of finance as being really what the security services are there for. Apparently, that's one of the reasons that they exist.
No, they are there. That is why they're there. They're there to prevent. There's their little sort of, I don't know what they call it, their job description, as it were, and it's they brought in the Regulatory Investigation Powers Act, RIPA, and the MI services were above it. But when you look at what it is, it's when they get involved, it's when there is, a financial detriment, a health detriment, or a political detriment to the country.
Anyway, look, let's just go back to Ghislaine Maxwell for a minute, because it just seems to me incredible that everyone seems to have just forgotten that we've got half of the major child sex trafficking ring is able to just travel the world as if nothing has happened, and yet it's been proven that she's a child sex trafficker. This is quite clearly something that should be. There should be a warrant out for her arrest. She should go to court. She should be tried, and if necessary, she should go to jail for that. How come things like that just don't happen? I mean, as I understand it, she's a British citizen. She certainly was brought up here, and she's a London socialite apparently, but no charges.
Well, it's the same as what was said to me. I mean, what was said to me by this senior officer. Well, I'm going to make a point here, Tony. I can't name because I'm in court. And if I name, then it's going to cause a world of grief for me, so I'm not going to do it. But what was said to me was, you've got no idea how deep this is. If this gets out, we, as a service, meaning the Metropolitan Police Service, we are effed, past, present and future. This cannot and will not get out. So they are aware of this. And, when you've got the royal family and you've got politicians, they will have police-appointed protection officers, which will shadow these people about left, right and centre. Now, I spoke to one who was a protection officer for Liam Britton for a period of time. So we knew what he was doing. We're young boys. We knew what he was doing. So his family can say what they want, that he won't involve. Well, what else do you expect them to say? And the same as Jana. You get his son, who's a prominent barrister, and he tries to coerce journalists into shedding good light on his father. The man was a paedophile, and I've spoken to victims of that man, of his father, Lord Jana.
As someone that's worked in the service, in the Metropolitan Police, John, what do you think it would take to turn the tables on the paedophiles?
An act of God, I think. What did it take for any decent people to stand up? It takes bravery, and it takes a resilience, and it takes a moral backbone, which apparently a lot of people lack. I mean, I'm in no way putting myself up as a hero. I'm not. No, but John,
I'm wondering. I mean, you're not the only ever police detective with backbone. I mean, there are others out there. They haven't actually blown the whistle yet.
But they need to. They need to. There needs to be legislation brought in. Apparently, it's been brought in Australia that anyone in the public sector, if they know of corruption, they have a legal duty to speak out. But when it's those at the top, the lawmakers, that are actually the law breakers, then we don't stand a chance. This is coming out now. We're in a time of revealing. I genuinely believe that. And what we've seen recently with people standing up and speaking out and revelations, years ago it would have been very easy.
But it all seems to be moving in the opposite direction. We've got former MP Harvey Proctor, Tory MP Harvey Proctor, is taking the fight to the police, and actually not just trying to stop the survivors coming forward, but also trying to stop the police investigating these crimes.
Well, the man's evil, and so him lying and attacking victims is nothing to him. You know, what else is he going to do? You know, these are rats in a sinking ship. They're going to do anything, and rats attack their own, and these people will attack their own. And you know, we saw it with Keith Vaz when he was exposed. We saw it with Liam Britton when he was exposed. Unfortunately, this comes, you know, post-mortem, you know. So, but I mean, Proctor, you know, there will be intelligence reports on him and his nefarious activities with boys. There will be, I guarantee you of that. And I'd heard things about him, but again, I can't say nothing. But the man is not a clean man, and he was caught out. He had a conviction, albeit not for underage, but you know, for perversion. And his name now we've got 634 MPs, right? How comes we always hear the same names? We hear Proctor, he's always a mouthpiece for it, right? We always hear about Leon Britton, Jenner, Ted Heath. I mean, Ted Heath, my God, how that man ever got to the echelons that he did. You know, it just defies any sort of, not just belief, but any sort of decency. You know, but they do, and they allow it, and it's a game that they're playing. It's a political game. It's a dangerous game.
Well, it's also a psychological game, John, because a lot of people just simply do not want to think about this whole topic.
Totally, we've got to look at the statistics, right? The reality here, right? 80% of the prison population come from childhood abuse backgrounds. You know, 90% of those with heroin addictions have come from sexually abused backgrounds. You know, the facts are there. The truth is there, right? It's the most detrimental thing that we've ever done to our society. And you know, I was talking to some East Europeans and I was saying England's known as a paedophile country, and I get they're right. You know, and it's a mockery of decent people, you know, that aren't like that. But unfortunately, people have got their heads up. They don't care. Our next generation, you know, they're not interested. They're sitting there watching YouTube, Facebook, day in, day out, social media.
Well, maybe they're watching you on YouTube, John, because you're on there, aren't you? Well, anyway, look, let's just wrap up with some, you know, just tips from you as to where to go if you're interested in actually getting some truth on this topic.
Well, I tell you what, there's a guy called Sean Atwood, and it's the English spelling is Sean, S-H-A-U-N, Atwood, A-T-T, Wood. And he's actually on a mission at the moment, and he is putting out a lot of good facts, you know, and a lot of history, a lot of chronology about Epstein and what he's been involved in and those he's linked to. And he is definitely one to follow, and he's a lovely guy, and he's a clever guy, and he's a brilliant orator. So follow him, watch him, and read between the lines, you know, and what we got to do, those of us that are in the position, we need to give the victims a chance to be witnessed, right? And to give them the voice, the platform. Now, that's what I do. Unfortunately, like, you know, with Karl Beech and all the others, you know, they get attacked. We see it with Melanie Shaw and numerous others that speak out and get hefty sentences. I get attacked monumentally on a daily basis by loonies, idiots, nutters, nasty, dirty people that don't want me speaking out. But do you know what? I don't care for them. They mean nothing to me. My job is to do the right thing. I've done the right thing. I will continue to do the right thing. And I say others. You know, it's the Manic Street Preachers said it in their song. If we tolerate this, then our children will be next. You know, and it is happening. And people might be comfortable thinking it's not happened to them. And it might not have happened to their children, but what about their grandchildren? What about their nieces, their nephews? And it will be out there. And I'll just say to people, just wake up, because this evil cannot be allowed to triumph. And if we sit on our asses and we attack those speaking out and we do F all, it will triumph. And we can't wait for the cavalry to turn up. We are the cavalry. Right, we need to do something. We saw it in Belgium. We saw it with the Marc Dutroux case, you know, when just shy of 750,000 people took to the streets when he was exposed for what he was doing, which is very similar to what Savile and the others have done, right? And they made a difference. I hold protests on a regular basis in London. We get 5, 6, what we had 40 once turn up, and that was it. We need to consolidate. And we need to have a day of remembrance, which is something that I'm organising at the moment, a day of remembrance for all the children that have been lost. whether it be to the care system, whether it be to alcohol, drugs. Now, adults commit suicide, children commit suicide, but adults with drug addictions that die through that to suicide. And if they've been abused, that isn't the adult that's dying, that's a child inside that has died. So we got to expand what is a child. When you abuse someone, you emotionally stunt them. They emotionally die at the age when they were abused, and emotionally they never grow up because they've been spiritually damaged. And, you know, get together. You know, you don't need to be part of a group, but be a link in the chain.
Well, how do people contact you? How do people find you if they want to chat or some advice?
Well, I'm on Facebook, Jon Jon Wedger, Wedger. You know, I've got the Jon Wedger Foundation. You can go on there. There's my email address. They can get in contact with me. I do my utmost to reply, but I'm one guy. And I do my best. You know, my phone's constantly going. I'm always trying to impart my
all the
wisdom,
nutters and
knowledge.
the loonies will be scribbling down your email address now, John.
Oh, do you know what, Tony? Let them. You know, I don't care for them. I don't care for them. And anyone who attacks anyone doing good to expose child abuse is a nonce themselves. And that's a bold and cutting statement, but I'm standing by it. They are not right in the head if they do that, and there must be some sort of nefarious reasons why they are doing it. Now, they might be damaged people with unresolved issues. I don't care. Don't attack those that are doing good. There's enough doing bad. They're the ones should be the target of your nastiness, not the good people.
All right, John. Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, no, God bless, and keep up the good work yourself, Tony.
Cheers. That was former Detective Constable in Metropolitan Police, Jon Wedger.
You're listening to dialectradio.co.uk, your local community radio run by volunteers. Log on to our website at dialectradio.co.uk to find out more.
Now, there were two lists, and possibly even more, but two main ones. First of all, in the 1980s, Jeffrey Dickens MP, Conservative MP, collected a list of what he believed was a Westminster VIPaedophile ring. More recently, though, Carole Kasir, who used to run the Elm Guest House in Barnes in Richmond, spoke to someone called Christopher Fay. Christopher Fay then wrote down the list of people she said had visited Elm Guest House. Now, some may be true and some may be not, but Robert Chewter, we're about to hear, worked with Chris to compile that list and to get it out to the public, because apparently the police weren't really that interested. Too many powerful people on the list, rich and famous, including singers and entertainers. One person we do know was definitely there was the paedophile MP, Cyril Smith.
My name is Robert Chewter. About 7 years ago, I was sniffing around for an idea, and I got called by someone I can't name into helping them assist child abuse scandals. So I was really reluctant to go because I had trouble with that before.
Well, hang on a minute, because are you saying that you were being asked by somebody who was investigating child abuse or doing it?
No. The person who asked me was an investigator, and I said, well, I think so. I tell you, I wouldn't get involved with an abuser, that's for sure.
Who was this person and what were they asking you to do?
I can't really name that person, but they were the author of the Elm Guest House and Mary Moss list. That's a big clue.
Okay, so what did they ask you to do?
They asked me, I think it was a case of could I supply names and details for them about a child abuse situation. So I reluctantly thought, all right, I'll help you out. I come up and spent a couple of hours, just forwarded it off to him, right? And I didn't think any more with it. After about an hour, he said, great, fine, it's exactly what I wanted. I thought to myself, really? Can't believe it. So after that, that's when I gradually got hooked way back into it again, and I thought, well, I've been like that ever since.
What was the source of your information then?
He wanted me to find a thing as a bent copper in it, or something like that. So I formulated and came up with this information this guy wanted. And as I say, that's where I've been ever since, really.
And when was this? When were you asked to help investigate?
7 years ago.
Okay, so that's, 2012. This hadn't really hit the headlines at that point, although it was starting to. I mean, I think it was just after that Theresa May started her child abuse investigation.
That's right, yeah.
Right, so what did you find out?
Oh, he wanted to know the names of spent copper, and somehow was to prove this bloke was involved in what they were doing. That's what it was. Once you've seen the stuff on the internet and all the people, all the names, I thought, this is a bit curious. So somehow I got involved in it and thought, well, I continued his investigation. And from what I've been told, this guy's got a ton of my stuff. So it must have been quite good. Must have said something and did something, but it's obviously he liked.
Who do you think were the main figures at Elm Guest House that people might recognise? Because the whole point here is that these were massively well-known, many of them, public figures.
Yeah. Well, we always start with the obvious. It's Harvey Proctor and another guy called Colin Peters. I run the impression that Colin Peters runs VAT Attack. As well as it is, it's still alive. And someone I know has written to him. Of course, he got a denial, that attack, obviously. It's Colin Peters and that attack was just a sham, really. This guy has been arrested and put in prison. He got out. He's in somewhere in West London. We got arrested for that. Oh, absolutely. Makes you sick that this person was. Terrible.
So what was going on at Elm Guest House? How did it all work?
Well, I say Carole Kasir was known to be the owner, but before she was the owner, she was first owned by a woman called Kathleen Haywood, who lived in Islington and went to live in Barnes, hence 27 Rocks Lane. But we got a feeling that it wasn't known to Elm Guest House then. It was just a guest house. We had the feeling that after Carole Kasir, Carole Kasir must have named Elm Guest House and Elm Guest House.
What was going on, though?
Well, from what I could work out, there's Kathleen Haywood and Carole Kasir were approached by Rod and Twist and Mervyn Greenaway to set up a boy brothel to make money. And when Carole Kasir was running Elm Guest House, she was making some money of it. So it's both financial and more of a boy brothel. What does that tell you then?
I mean, some people have suggested that the reason that there were famous people involved and what they call VIPaedophiles was that the place was being used to blackmail some of those people.
Well, the place was using it, but these people, myself, have been unaware of being blackmailed because for frequency, they use the place. I mean, especially in 1982, it got raided. No, just before that, they had the tip of the police were coming around, so everyone scarpered then. So from that, you have to figure what happened there to them.
So who were some of the beneficiaries of all of this then?
Well, Cyril Smith was one person who's now been accepted for being a visitor to Guest House, and more controversially, Cliff Richard. In fact, I had a guy at my place not so long ago who declared he had seen Cliff Richard at Elm Guest House. So there's that.
But would that sort of accusation, would that stand up in court?
Well, it's crazy. Cliff Richard's been in the news, like the Daily Mirror, or some story. Oh, we mustn't become poor Cliff Richard. Oh, terrible, terrible. I mean, I got sick of it. I didn't buy that newspaper anymore. I had enough of it. Ian about Cliff Richard, always poor sod, leave him alone. Oh, I got a bit fed up with it.
Yeah, but what evidence have you got that Cliff Richard was there?
Oh, it's in the Elm Guest House list, wasn't it?
So this list, I mean, how much can we rely on it?
Well, I relied on it. So over everyone who's relied on it had the list and thought, well, we haven't got anything else to rely on, have we? You know.
I mean, is this list publicly available still?
I should imagine so. Well, it must have been shared, it's been shared around the world, isn't it?
But I mean, some people will say that the list itself is fake and it's false, and it may contain some real paedophiles, but the idea really is to add a few extra names of non-paedophiles to discredit the whole thing.
Not at all, no. It's something you develop a feeling with. I can't put into better words, but really, listen, I got someone on a spread, right? And he said this, take for example, it's Karl Beech. No, he said Karl Beech, right? Oh, it's a born liar. Oh, it's a known liar. I said, how do you know he's a known liar? I really had a go at this guy. I said, how can you prove it was a known liar? Well, he was anyway. I said, you don't know that,
well,
do
it's been proved in court, hasn't it?
Listen, the court's rulings was all wrong. Stuff about Harry Potter had a blood-stained 14-year-old's uniform on him. Mustn't let anyone know about that. Now, I had so much information about Karl Beech, lots of things the jury wasn't allowed to hear. All they heard, it's right. They weren't allowed to hear it. And so much of the case was, we ignored it.
Okay, so what's going on here?
I think it's a second follower of a cover-up, isn't it? I mean, you got 18 years. Anyone who burglary would get even less, wouldn't he? Free to go after about 4 or 5 years, but 18 years?
So, in your mind, who are the real culprits? Who do you think should go on trial and potentially go behind bars?
Well, Harvey Proctor, obviously.
Why?
Listen, I've got so much stuff. We spent a couple of years, right, researching everything Harvey Potter been. It was for a firm called Joe & Co. And Joe & Co., she was the woman who designed the bear on the charity thing for Find a Child, Help Another Child thing. And yet, she had Harvey Proctor working for him. Now, I know some friends of mine who put that out and they got slapped on the wrist by YouTube. Why? Oh, you have to change it. Because the woman, Josephine, whatever her name is, she had a complaint.
Okay, so who else?
Well, Saul Smith has now been proved that he visited.
Well, but Cyril Smith is dead. He obviously can't be put on trial. Who else do you think the police should still be looking at and potentially prosecuting?
Well, Colin Peters should definitely get his colour filled. He works as a VAT inspector or something or the other, but this guy should be pulled up and put away. I didn't finish. We finished about Peterson Cross also under the Festival Club in GTE International. So while Carole Kasir was seeing people like King Cross and that, who was from the Spartacus, he owned a place called the Festival Club and GTE International. And somebody I know was abused there. He actually wrote to us and admitted, he said, sorry, but I was abused at this place. So that proved my point.
What about where it all goes from here? Because we've seen now that with Karl Beech being sent to jail, basically there doesn't seem to be many more people coming forward.
Well, I find myself actually going on to comment threads and all that, having to remind everybody that Elm Guest House did exist. We had the brief for Harvey Proctor recently that's gone on. I was reading an article in the Independent. I said he basically was wanted to get everyone to forget Elm Guest House and not to worry about it. And the idea was he wanted to get everyone to dismiss the idea of Westminster paedophile ring. Westminster paedophile ring is enormous. How can we tell you, one day we read it, it's terrible, next day, well, don't worry about that. What's this guy's game? Come on.
Well, the police are also themselves being told that they have been doing things wrong. So it's not only the potential survivors and whistleblowers that are coming forward to the press and the police. It's also the police themselves that are now thinking twice about investigating Westminster paedophiles.
Well, they were also. I got Richard Henriques. I found out the other day. Richard Henriques, about 4 years ago, was chastised for sending someone, a known paedophile, back to live opposite a victim. And he said, this guy's got the right to live there because he was worried about losing his home. £75,000. Richard said, what kind of man is he who reckons a paedophile who's worried about losing their home to carry the day? What stupid it was. So why is Richard Henriques now getting all his attention? And it's okay. We mustn't. He closed down Operation Midland. He should never. Why did he close down Operation Midland? Because it was the Westminster paedophile ring. So it seems to me that he wanted to close down the Westminster paedophile ring to shut everyone up.
I mean, there are actually some victories, aren't there? Some people who have recently been sent down for quite long jail terms as well.
It's true. Russell Trigger. 14 years that guy has got. It wasn't overdue. I'm glad he got in there. But, Russell Trigger, he was involved in the Elm Guest House thing. It's terrible. He drove a coach and picked up boys and fed them off to Amsterdam and all that. But they got him now. I imagine what I was thinking of, we should be worried. Because if this was now doing 14 years worth, who's going to be worried? I think in myself, Harvey Proctor and Colleen Peters. I bet either they're worried or Russell Trigger is worried. Because if Russell Trigger is in a cell, it's going to be days we won't. How long have we got to live? He's worried sick that it's going to be nobbled. That's what I think.
What is it that keeps you going, doing all this? It must be quite dispiriting.
No, well, it's the sort of thing you have good days and bad days. Like we heard not so long ago that the Daily Mail and the Telegraph or invented something to shut us up, But then began the Russell Trigger information. We're cheered up by that. So it's all up. and down and up and down. Yeah, it's a bit like that.
So what do you think will break this story finally? Is it possible, do you think, for justice to be done? What would you like to see happen?
Well, since they've now taken Russell Trigger in, I'm pleased God it's going to be all right. So I'm hoping the police should take notice of Russell Trigger. You could go, all right, I don't want to be in prison for 14 years. And you start to name his accomplices, Harvey Proctor, Colin Peasant, and all that. And I'm hoping from this will bring other people into the mix as well.
OK, Robert Chewter, thanks very much for joining us.
OK.
So that was Robert Chewter, friend of Christopher Fay, compiler of the Elm Guest House list, in a conversation he had with the owner of Elm Guest House, or one of the owners, Carole Kasir, who then died in mysterious circumstances. One group of people that definitely do know about the VIPaedophiles is the KGB. Not that they're telling yet. That's all for this week. Dialect's Bristol's first weekly MP3 podcast. You can download it to listen on your phone or in the car. Suggest interviewees, subscribe to our email list, and listen the week before broadcast if you like at our website dialectradio.co.uk. Thanks to our guests Jon Wedger and Robert Chewter, also to studio engineer Dave Bazanko. Dialect's a Bristol Broadband co-op production. Catch us on Bristol Community FM 93.2 every Tuesday at noon, and anyone can contribute. Contact us through the People's Republic of Stokes Croft, just off Jamaica Street, online at prsc.org.uk. If you have some of your precious time to spare, you can volunteer with us or for hundreds of opportunities elsewhere in Britain via the National Volunteering website, do-it.org. So, thanks for listening to Dialect, and I'm Tony Gosling, wishing you a very good week. I'll be back on Friday with my 2-hour BCFM politics show, live from 6 till 8 p.m. Meanwhile, till next Tuesday midday from the Dialect crew, goodbye for now.